Kentucky Democratic Governor Andy Beshear, who in recent weeks was expected to have a somewhat tight battle against Daniel Cameron, the state AG. But with 87% of the vote in, the incumbent governor, Democrat, has a healthy 6-point lead. I want to bring in former housing secretary and 2020 presidential candidate Julian Castro. Mr. Secretary, just listening to the incumbent Democratic governor of Kentucky, who has a healthy lead and the race has been called for him, taking a victory lap there, saying that this is not about the right or the left. This is about rejecting Team R or Team D. You have to run not against someone, but show vision and not sow division. Anger politics is over. Granted, this is the state of Kentucky that Donald Trump won by, I believe, 20 points. And a Democrat who survived to be a two-term governor here. Remarkable story for these times. But how are you looking at the events of this evening?
Well, I mean, there's no other way to interpret this tonight than to say it's a great night for Democrats. It's also, Alex, as you know, this is a really soothing, warm shot of Kentucky bourbon to ease all of that anxiety that national Democrats have been feeling for the last couple of days since that New York Times poll came out and other recent polling, this nervousness about the 2024 cycle. All of the caveats still apply. We're still a year away from 2024. These were state elections. There wasn't a single congressional representative, senator, or of course, President Biden wasn't on the ballot. But this does, I think, give Democrats some important lessons. And Governor Beshear alluded to one right there. Look, you have to be for something and you have to go on offense. He did that. He did that on the issue of protecting the right to choose. He did that in pushing back against these culture war issues and specifically the attack on trans kids. We saw how powerful the issue of reproductive freedom was in Ohio tonight and also in Virginia. It looks like Democrats have at least retained the state Senate there, and they're going to be able to block young Governor Youngkin from draconian abortion legislation. So there are some lessons here, and Democrats should learn them. It also, I think, means for Joe Biden that this is kind of a roadmap going forward. It's clear that the campaign needs to make some adjustments and needs to address a weakness that not only the poll the other day, but many polls over the last year have shown with some core Democratic constituencies. This is a good, I think, little reset and starting off point for that.
Do you think the Biden team needs to draw more of a direct contrast with Trump? I mean, we know just from reporting on spending, I believe that the Biden campaign and the DNC spent roughly $7 million on positive TV ads this year, along with less than $100,000 on contrast ads that name Trump. The wisdom was that the Republican primary season would do enough damage to Trump that people like Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley or Tim Scott would go after Trump effectively enough that Biden wouldn't have to. That, of course, has not turned out to be the case at all. Do you think it's now incumbent upon the sitting president to more specifically call out Donald Trump and his 91 felony counts?
Yeah, this is going to sound like a contradiction from what I just said a second ago. But yes, look, you have to be for something. And Joe Biden's campaign, I think, has laid out all of the different great accomplishments that he has under his belt. But the best thing that Joe Biden has going for him in 2024 was the best thing I think he had going for him in 2020. That's how terrible Donald Trump is when you put his record in front of the American people. And that record has only gotten worse with 91 criminal indictments, 4 different trials that may be going on by the time that we have the election in November 2024. And he may even be convicted, in which case all bets are off. So absolutely, the Biden campaign needs to spend more resources, more focus and attention on reminding people how bad, how uniquely terrible a president Donald Trump was. And the thing is that right now, yeah, Trump is on TV, you know, on the networks because of his testimony at the trials and so forth, but he's not on every day. He's not reminding people by being in office of how bad a president he was. And I think that he's benefiting from that. Those primary opponents of his are too scared to point out his failures and his weaknesses. And so it's going to fall upon the Biden campaign to start with that earlier than they wanted to. But if they don't, they risk Trump getting a free ride all the way until next summer or fall. And I think that would be a mistake.
Do you think, to that end, Trump's relative, and I put the word relative in italics, silence in terms of xenophobic, racist commentary, and instead focus on election interference and the criminal future that awaits him in 2024 in terms of trials. Do you think that is why Trump has been seemingly able to make inroads with voters of color? I know the Biden campaign has looked at the numbers in the latest polling about Biden support among, for example, Latinos, and is very, very worried that there may be some significant realignment here in the way that the parties, where the parties draw their base of support.
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw a preview of this in the 2020 election. After 2016, I mean, I think if you ask people, well, what was the defining issue for Trump in that campaign against Hillary Clinton, it was immigration. And I noticed that, of course, he was still as bad on immigration as he had been before, but he shut up about it a little bit more. He wasn't as strident. He didn't put that issue out there in the same way in 2020. And he did better numbers, a little bit better with Latinos. And what the Biden campaign needs to do is to remind those voters, those core constituencies, what he stands for, what Biden stands for, and then how bad Trump has been. Donald Trump is going to do everything he can to try and hoodwink voters, including Latino voters in places like Florida and South Texas, and I'm sure parts of Arizona and Nevada, to make them think that, yeah, you know, I will be better than my reputation. But I think that enough people are going to be able to see through that if they're reminded of the track record of the words and the actions of Trump in the past.
Well, if we're learning anything from tonight, is effective campaigning, people will show up for you. There's a big night tonight. Secretary Castro, thank you for helping me make sense of all of this in the context of the big race that awaits us all in 2024. Thanks for your time tonight.
You guys.